Russell Wilson is a New York Football Giant, and you should be fired up about it because he is the best quarterback that this once proud organization has had in the last 8 seasons. Yo, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. I got my co-host, Jack Sperry, here today, the host of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Watched every single Russell Wilson game last year, studied him inside and out, and he's going to let all Giants fans out there know what they could be looking forward to this year with Russell Wilson. I'm excited, Jack.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. Russ is a quarterback that I think I have a pretty good feel on, and I'm very excited to see what he's going to do with Big Blue this year.
I am as well. If you are excited to watch Russell Wilson play quarterback for the New York Giants, probably their best quarterback since the 2016 season with Eli Manning, hit that thumbs up icon and let's dive into it. Sperry, we're just going to lean on you in this video. I think the Giants made a good move by going out and getting Russell Wilson, covering off their bases in case there's a situation in the NFL draft where they can't select a quarterback at number 3 overall. And we'll talk about the NFL draft in a second, but I want you to take us back to week 7 when Russ took over as the starter for Justin Fields, and that offense really started to operate at a different level.
Yeah, last year Justin Fields started the first 6 games of the season, went 4-2. Then Mike Tomlin went to Russell Wilson, who he named the starter before the season. A lot of people are like, what are you doing, man? You're 4-2. You're winning football games with Justin Fields. Why are we making this decision? Then he comes out, wins 5 of his first 6 games. He's throwing the ball down the field at a much higher clip and a lot more efficiently than Justin Fields was. The team was scoring way more points, 28.6 points per game when he was the starter the first 6 games of his Steelers career. And the offense was humming. I mean, the defense was playing great football, and the run game was a lot better at that point during the season. And Russell Wilson was really the complementary piece that the Steelers brought him in to be as somebody that's going to go under center, play action, throw the deep ball to guys like George Pickens, who are obviously one of the best deep ball threats in the National Football League. But where things began to sour in his journey with the Pittsburgh Steelers was week 14 when George Pickens ended up getting hurt towards the end of the season, taking away his number 1 receiving weapon. And of course, since they whiffed on Brandon Ayuk weeks before the start of the 2024 NFL campaign, they didn't really have much help elsewhere. And that really devolved into the Steelers' run game not being able to do a lot of stuff because they were facing stack boxes and they didn't have enough receiving help in that room to really help out Russell Wilson. And as a result, the offensive production dipped significantly. The offensive pass protection was also not very good. The defense during that final stretch of the season was also giving up a ton of points to some of the best teams in the game, like the Philadelphia Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens, and others. And as a result, Russell Wilson's EPA dropped over 50 points in that final stretch. And then, of course, it all culminated in a 28-14 loss to the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL playoffs on Wild Card Weekend. So when you take a look at Russell Wilson, it really is a tale of 2 seasons where, he started off great. It looked like he was going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback for maybe even the next half decade, and he was going to sign a new contract. And then he really gets scapegoated by the Pittsburgh Steelers here after that 5-game losing skid to finish out the season, of course, culminating in yet another first-round exit for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, obviously the numbers between those 2 stretches are massive, and he looked like a different player towards the end of the season. Looked like the arm strength may have dipped a little bit. I don't know if it was the cold weather or if there was injuries, but I want you to kind of just talk about, do you think Russ was kind of blamed as a scapegoat there? There was a lot of injuries on the offensive line the second half of the season. You mentioned the George Pickens injury. Or was Russ maybe the driving force as to why there was not success for the Steelers offense in the second half of the year?
Yeah, my personal opinion on this is that the collapse was not on Russell Wilson. They never brought him in to be the franchise savior. Their plan for him was, hey, he's dirt cheap, vet minimum contract that the Broncos were pretty much footing the bill for, and he was going to come in and you were going to pair him with a great run game. He was going to be able to do play action, deep shots, that sort of stuff, protect the football, the stuff that he does well. But it devolved to a point where the Steelers pretty much asked him to carry the offense. And as we're going to talk about on today's show, I'm not sure Russell Wilson, based on his year in Pittsburgh and then his 2 years in Denver, I think he's shown he's no longer that quarterback. So I do think that Russell Wilson, he's not the type of guy that's going to carry your football team, but he showed in that successful stretch that he had with the Pittsburgh Steelers last last year that if you put a good defense around him, if you can protect him, if you have a good run game, if you have solid weapons around him for him to throw the deep ball to, he is absolutely somebody that can still throw the football effectively and be a good starting quarterback that can win games in the National Football League.
Ideally, if the Giants are healthy at left tackle with Andrew Thomas, Jermaine Illuminor continues to build up as a football player at right tackle. You got John Runyon at left guard, bringing back Van Roten. Malik Neighbors, could we be talking about him as a top 10 wide receiver? Do you think there's enough, health permitting, with this Giants offense for Russ to maybe replicate what he did with the Steelers in the first half of that season?
Yeah, we'll have to see. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of young players on this Giants team, a lot of developing offensive linemen. Theo Johnson's got some nice upside that still needs to kind of show itself. Tyrone Tracy's really talented, but he needs to deal with that fumble issue that he had a little bit last year. But they've got some deep threat weapons. It's not necessarily the same type of deep threat weapons. It's like different types of guys that are more speed demons. Darius Slayton reminds me a lot of MVS in the way that, you know, he can get down the field as a bigger receiver, as a deep threat. Jalen Hyatt obviously has got those wheels as well. And then Malik Neighbors obviously is extremely fast and a great route runner as well, can separate down the field. But none of these guys are necessarily George Pickens types where they're going to win 50-50 balls down the sideline. So Brian Dable, I really do love the way that he can scheme up these downfield concepts. He did it with Josh Allen in Buffalo with the deep crossers, that sort of stuff, to kind of get these faster wide receivers the ball in open space down the football field. And that's how Russell Wilson is going to have success with this Giants team. Off of play action, hopefully Tracy gets going as their number one back next year, and then they can throw those deep shots and those moon balls to Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, of course, Malik Neighbors.
And there's a lot of talk. When you talk about Russell Wilson, now you're talking about him being a player that relies on the ability to throw the deep ball. We've shown the stats on screen. We've talked about it at length on this channel. He was graded out as literally the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, but I thought you made a good point earlier. While the Giants have deep threat wide receivers, outside of Malik Neighbors, they don't really have a guy that you want to just straight up throw 50-50 balls consistently. And you could speak to this better than I can, but when I've gone back and watched the film, I'm not saying all of the Russell Wilson deep ball throws are 50-50, but there's a lot where George Pickens is going up to get it, the wide receiver is coming back to the football, and it's kind of just Russ saying, you're one-on-one, I'm going to give you a chance to get it. Do you worry about the lack of contested catch threats the Giants have?
It should be a little bit of a concern because last year it really was a lot of, here we go, you're going to throw this up there, and it's not always going to be perfectly accurate, but at least, you know, the touch that he puts on his football, especially deep down the field, gives his guys a chance to make a play. With the guys that the Giants have, it's more separating down the field type of deep threats, right? So you're going to have to precisely work with Russell Wilson to get the timing down within these concepts, build that chemistry between the receivers in this room and Russell Wilson so that they can get that timing down perfectly and hopefully dial up some nice deep types of concepts for this offense to execute.
Before we get into some positive and some negatives from your point of view, I want to make this abundantly clear. While Russell Wilson was not my number one choice, as everyone knows, I wanted to go out and get Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback the Giants will have on their roster since maybe 2016 with Eli Manning when they made that playoff run with Odell Beckham. If you just take the stats that Russ put together and you stretch them out over a 17-game sample size, he nearly threw for 4,000 yards. He's throwing for 225 yards per game. 24 touchdowns. Giants haven't had that since Daniel Jones' rookie year. That was 6 years ago. And a thing that I think it's underrated about his game, Sperry, is he takes care of the football, rarely putting the ball in harm's way. Still a veteran that is savvy in that regard, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. When you had a guy in Daniel Jones for multiple seasons in this offense that was probably the most conservative quarterback in football, throwing short of the sticks, doing all these certain things that I'm sure Marsh has waxed poetically on this channel for months at this point. But the thing with Russell Wilson is that he protects the football as well, but he does it in an aggressive manner. He takes calculated risks down the field. And as a downfield passer, last year he was the most efficient downfield passer in the entire National Football League. He was first in downfield yards per attempt and EPA per attempt. And by the way, guys, downfield passing is 10 or more air yards down the field. That's not just deep bombs. That's to the intermediate level of the field. And I think that Russell Wilson is a very efficient intermediate level thrower when he's working within structure and within the rhythm of the offense. So I do think that Russell Wilson, I think, brings the the kind of balance between protecting the football and being aggressive, throwing the ball down the field that Brian Dable is looking for, because I think we all know his job is on the line, and I think that this is a veteran quarterback option that's going to be able to execute the offense that he wants.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, can Russell Wilson win games this year with the New York Giants? I've said it time and time again. I think there's two ways that Brian Dable and Joe Schoen keep their job. Number one, they got to win more games than they're supposed to. Or two, they find the next franchise quarterback. Russ, not going to be that guy. Maybe you find that in the NFL draft. We'll talk about that. Let's go into, though, Jack, some positives and some negatives. We'll start on a good note, because this is a good signing for the Giants. I don't want people to think this is another Daniel Jones. It's not. This is a much better quarterback in a different tier, Super Bowl champion, a guy that at one point was putting together a Hall of Fame resume before he went to the Broncos. So this is a good football player. I want people to understand that and embrace that. Where there are positives, there are weaknesses. Let's start with the positives, though.
Yeah, so my scouting report on Russell Wilson starts with what he's going to bring to your locker room. And you're going to get a positive leader that brings high level of energy. And if you listen to his introductory press conference with the Giants, like, he's talking about specific plays that he saw on film last year with guys like Leak and guys like Jalen Hyatt and all these different guys, Theo, that the Giants have in their room right now. And, you know, he does his homework. And nobody's going to work harder than Russell Wilson, all right? He does all the different stuff to be prepared as possible, and he is a consummate professional, so you're not going to have to worry about that. The second positive in his game is that his arm strength is definitely still there. I think some people, it's kind of been a narrative because the numbers went down last year, that his arm strength went down when the cold kind of came last year. I don't think that was necessarily the case. You still saw the arm strength. You still saw the downfield shots, and he still saw him kind of fire that football into those tight windows. So arm strength is not a concern of mine for him. He is definitely somebody that can still spin it, and I do think that that is the marker of somebody that's done in the National Football League. Guys like Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, we're seeing it now with Kirk Cousins, where if you lose your arm strength, you are done as an NFL quarterback. That is not the case with Russell Wilson at this point. Third positive on my list here is that he's got very clean pocket footwork and upper body mechanics, has very good base, does not bring his feet together. He keeps his feet lined up to his target, and then he has very clean, simple, and repeatable upper body mechanics that lead to some of the most accurate passes that you will see out of any quarterback in the National Football League. Still very much brings that to the table. My fourth positive on my list here is he protects the football extremely well. He is top 10 in interception percentage all time in NFL history, and he was top 3 last year in turnover-worthy play percentage. So he's absolutely somebody, as we talked about earlier in today's show, that is going to protect the football at a very high level. And that's something that I think that Brian Dable really does cherish in his starting quarterback. Also, he's a really good pre-snap processor and communicator. He's very comfortable in empty formations with guys spread out. He likes to be able to see what the defense is giving to him pre-snap. He'll audible at the line of scrimmage. He's a great communicator, right? He makes sure that he's on the same page with everybody in terms of the checks, in terms of all the different hand signals and different audibles that he brings to the table, and everybody's on the same page when Russell Wilson is your quarterback. He's also a very good decision maker on his first read, and this is really where he needs to be thriving. And if he's going to have success in New York, you have to be able to scheme up things for him on his first read. He does a good job deciphering whether that option is a good one for him to fire to or to not throw to. That's also equally as important. Then the deep ball accuracy and his touch is still world class. We talked about how his ability to throw that deep ball and downfield passing is among still the best in the National Football League, first in yards per attempt and EPA per attempt just last year. And he's known for that moon ball, that ability to give his receivers opportunities to make plays down the field. It's absolutely still there. It's probably the best part of his game at this point in his NFL journey. Then the final positive I have on my scouting report here is he's still a very high-level clutch performer. Last year, every time Russell Wilson needed to make a big-time throw and the defense knew he had to throw the football, something that Daniel Jones definitely struggled with in his time as a New York Giant, is he could not make a throw when a defense knew he had to throw the football. It was also a big issue with Justin Fields last year for the Steelers. Russ consistently delivered in those moments. Like I said, when he's throwing the ball down the field within rhythm and he knows who he's firing to, he's among the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the clutch performance, that throw he had against the Washington Commanders where he's bailing out of the pocket, he throws one of those moon balls down the left side, calls game. The Giants haven't had that since Eli Manning. That was big-time stuff. You made a great point. He can still make throws when the defense knows they're throwing the football, and that's huge.
He was top 5 last year in EPA per attempt on 3rd and longs as well. So he was able to dig the Steelers' offense out of some pretty difficult situations. He will take sacks and put you in those 3rd and long situations. We'll talk about the sacks here in just a second, but he absolutely still has that clutch factor, and he can make a big throw for you every once in a while.
The 3rd and long, being successful there, that is such a breath of fresh air for Giants fans. How many times did we say it last year? 3rd and 12, Jones drops back, fires, caught. Wan'Dale Robinson, gain of 6 yards. Consistently throwing short of the sticks. Russ, he wants to push the ball past the sticks, and the data shows you still able to get it done when you're not supposed to on 3rd and long.
100%. But with all the positives that you get with Russell Wilson, there are still negatives, and he is a limited quarterback at this point in his NFL journey. The first thing that I'll talk about here is he will not throw over the middle of the field past his first read, and this is more about just his height, all right? Like once the pass rush starts collapsing in on him, it's very difficult for him to see over the middle of the field. So he can throw a seam ball over the middle of the field if it's his first read in a progression, but past that, he's really not going to do much for you in terms of a full field progression rate. He's not going to get to like a backside dig on his 3rd or 4th progression, just not something you see on Russell Wilson's film very often. Also, lots of one read to check down or scramble football because he can't see over the middle, because he is limited in terms of the full field progression reads. It's usually one read to check down. He led the league in check down percentage his final year there in Denver. He was also among the league leaders last year in Pittsburgh. And then he also likes to scramble a lot, which is another potential negative here on his profile as the New York Giants quarterback, is that he still leans too heavily on scrambling because he was one of, if not the best, scrambling out of structure playmakers in football for so long. It's just ingrained in his game, but he's lost that athleticism, so he takes a lot of sacks because of that. Another reason why he takes all the sacks that he does is an 8.5% sack percentage last year is because he does hold the ball looking for those deep shots. So even though he's very accurate, he's very good at hitting those deep shots down the field, he's going to hold the ball for a long time in order for that to happen. And because he doesn't have really the mobility to escape and be the playmaker that he used to be, it leads to a lot of sacks, and we've seen that over the last 3 years, last year in Pittsburgh and then his last 2 seasons in Denver. Then the final negative that I will bring up here is that although he is a very positive human being, he's going to bring high energy to your locker room. Last year, you could definitely tell people in the Steelers locker room were getting sick of the over positivity when the Steelers were on that final losing skid, because he was all clapping it up. Oh yeah, we're winning the Super Bowl, It's like, dude, like we're giving up 27 points a game, dog. Like don't come up trying to give me a high five. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes if things aren't going well, he's the type of guy where it's just infuriating to be around him. If it's going well and you're winning games, it's like, yeah, Russ, he's positive, all this different stuff. If you're not doing things correctly, he's not necessarily the type of guy that's going to give you a kick in the pants and tell you, hey, we got to get this shit right. Yeah. All right. He's going to be, yeah, we're all good, man. And sometimes that can be infuriating if you are somebody that wants to keep your teammates accountable. So at the end of the day here, guys, go ahead, Mark.
Two things I wanted to touch on that you brought up negatives that I want to put a little bit more color to the picture. When Russell Wilson threw the ball in under 2.5 seconds, he had the 7th best EPA in the National Football League. When Russell Wilson threw the ball over 2.5 seconds, meaning he was in the pocket for longer than 2.5 seconds, he had the 33rd best EPA per play. What do you think that says about his game at this point?
Well, it says it right there on screen. You have to really rely on that first read with Russell Wilson. If he gets past that first read and he hasn't pulled that trigger yet, I don't know if he has necessarily the athleticism and the off-schedule playmaking chops anymore to be able to play that style of football without taking too many sacks. And then because he's really, really short and he's pretty little, it's difficult for him to see over the middle of the field. It's hard to see over the line when you're as short as Russell Wilson is. Now, he used to be able to get away with it in Seattle because he could just leave the pocket, and he was super athletic, and he could throw on the run, make that second play. He's no longer able to do that at the level that he used to, which is why you see the EPA drop significantly after that first read.
Second thing I wanted to talk about, Russell Wilson threw between the numbers on only 48.8% of his attempts last year, second lowest in the NFL. On throws outside the numbers, he gained 7.7 yards per attempt, the 12th highest in the NFL. So I thought you made a really good point on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that loves to attack outside the numbers, and it's going to have to be something that Brian Daboll really taps into. You're going to have to do a lot of quick game stuff, early downs if you want to go spread and go empty with Russ, and he can get the ball out quickly. He's really good with the quick game concepts. I would really recommend that to Brian Daboll because he did that at a really high clip. Do that paired with some no huddle stuff that really worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. Second highest no huddle rate among quarterbacks last year, second only to Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. So those are kind of the elements that you have to bring in if you're going to have a successful offense with Russell Wilson, but it's certainly possible.
One thing I want to see the Giants do is lean on that no huddle type of offense. Let Russ get you into the best play at the line of scrimmage and let that potentially Hall of Fame mind and elite NFL quarterback at one point control the football game. Because the Giants, I don't know if I have seen a play in the last 5 years where I said, oh, Daniel Jones got us out of a bad play into a good play, and I'm hoping Russ can still do that at this point.
Yeah, I think that he's certainly somebody that can operate that style of offense. And honestly, I think that's what they have to do here to be able to get the most out of him at this point in his NFL career, because it's very, very difficult to consistently get your first read open every single time in the National Football League. So you're going to have to kind of do some of those tricks of the trade in order to get the most out of Russell Wilson.
Do you buy into the Arthur Smith didn't let Russell Wilson call audibles at the line?
No.
Last year?
No,
Okay.
That's been pretty well. That's one of the reasons why he had a falling out with Pittsburgh is Arthur Smith apparently didn't like that report getting out because it just wasn't true. He was allowed to make checks at the line of scrimmage, and he did. You watch the film, you can see him can plays at the line of scrimmage and check plays at the line of scrimmage during even the playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens. So that was a report leaked by Russ's team to Jerry Dulac, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reporter. And it's just a blatant lie, unfortunately. And I think that Russ put that out there to make him look better to the media and to the fan base and all this different stuff, because obviously his numbers don't look too favorably towards the end of the season.
Before we get to your final point, do you have any worry about Russell Wilson as a teammate, a locker room guy, and potentially being someone the Giants ask to mentor Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall, if that happens?
Absolutely not. I think that he'd be a great mentor for a young quarterback. If they do draft Shedeur Sanders, I think that Russell Wilson has been somebody that's constantly talked about sharing the knowledge that he has gotten throughout his NFL journey. He's not like a Brett Favre, or he's like, oh, I'm not here. They don't pay me to mentor people. Yeah. Russell Wilson has made abundantly clear that he wants to pass down his knowledge. He did it with Justin Fields last year. He was very gracious with his mentorship of Justin Fields. And now Justin Fields is a starting quarterback in the National Football League for the other team in New York, the New York Jets. So, yes, I think that he is certainly somebody where if things aren't going well, people are going to be annoyed by the positivity. But that is really the only negative thing I have to say about his leadership style.
Good. That's big. That's big for me because maybe the Giants do draft a quarterback and you're going to be asked to mentor that guy. And I don't mind Shedeur Sanders having to learn from Russell Wilson. So I'm cool with that.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to give my final take here on what I think Russell Wilson is at this point in his career. And I still think he's a guy you can have success with. All right, I think that because of the deep ball accuracy and the proficiency there, the fact that he protects the football, I think that, if a team is asking him to carry their team, it's not going to go well for you. But if you surround him with the proper talent, a good run game, a good defense, all this different stuff, and some good weapons, I do think that he can succeed with the proper support. And the way that I like to view this, Marsh, is that he's more of a trailer versus a truck. And a truck is somebody that pulls a roster forward. Like you can have a bad defense or a mediocre defense or a mediocre offensive line or mediocre weapons. We see this with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and the top quarterbacks in the league every year. Where they don't have a perfect roster, but they're still in it because they have a great quarterback. That's not who Russell Wilson is anymore. Russell Wilson's the type of guy that maybe if you have a good pass protection, a good run game, good weapons around him, and a good defense, and a well-coached football team, then he can absolutely still be successful in this league. So when it comes to the Giants specifically, I think that in order to win with Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback, you have to do whatever you can to put the best possible roster around him, because you're likely not going to win because of him, but you can potentially win with him.
You do quarterback ratings every single year. I don't want you to give away any spoilers here, but with Russ now on the Giants heading into this year, what would be your ballpark range of where you see Russell Wilson on your list?
Somewhere between, I would say, the 15th and the 20th best quarterback in football.
And that fires me the hell out. 15th best quarterback for the New York Giants. Sign me up. Sign me up.
All right, man. And then I will also point out here that, when it comes to the draft for the New York Giants here, if you really want to get the most out of Russell Wilson, and if, maybe the thinking with Brian Dable and Joe Schoen is we have to win as many games as possible this year to save our jobs. Well, if Russell Wilson's going to be your quarterback to do that and get those wins, I would say that maybe the focus shifts towards getting the best possible player at number 3, and then maybe take a quarterback on day 2. Maybe they fall in love with Tyler Shuck or somebody else like that, or Jackson Dart falls to day 2 or something like that, and you take Travis Hunter to pair with Malik Neighbors on the outside here and be your number 1 corner as well. I think that's something to keep in mind. But no matter what, with Russell Wilson, you got to build a roster around him if you're going to win football games.
And I've kind of gone back and forth over, do you take the quarterback or do you take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter the last 24 hours? And I think it just comes down to, do the New York Giants view Shedeur Sanders as a franchise quarterback? If the answer is yes, you pick him. If the answer is no, you do not pick him. Even if you want to win the most games possible with Russ, you're a GM that was told by your boss to get a franchise quarterback. You don't have one, and if you think there's one in the draft, you got to take him. I believe in Shedeur Sanders. I think he's good enough to be put on a team coached by Brian Dable. And if Brian Dable is who we think he is, he should be able to win with Shedeur Sanders. But there is a part of me that says it may just be better for the Giants long term to take a shot at one of these Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter guys who could maybe be wearing a gold jacket one day.
Yeah, 100%. Those guys are really special players, and I do think Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback prospect. I have a late round 1 grade on him.
Same.
I think that he's got a high floor. Maybe doesn't have super high superstar ceiling, but I do think that he could be a good quarterback in the National Football League if he develops properly. But like Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, these are blue chip prospects we're talking about. And if you take Shedeur Sanders, you're going to be passing on some blue chip talent at other positions that can help you win football games this year with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. So I agree with you, Marsh. I think that the thinking has to be if Shedeur Sanders is our guy, we're going to take him. Yeah. All right? Like it doesn't matter if he's not a blue chip prospect. If we believe in him, you take him. If not, if you have reservations about him, if you have a late round 1 grade on him instead of a good first round grade, a true first round grade on him, then maybe you take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But it really just depends on how they feel about Shedeur Sanders at this point.
And I think the signing of Russell Wilson gives you a little bit of just a breath of fresh air, to the sense of, we don't have to reach, if it is a reach in your mind on Shedeur, because you have a guy in Russ that can start all 17 games. Last question for you. The Giants' win total has come out this year. It's set at 3.5. Over or under?
Over, definitely.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
You just got Russie.
I think this team can be in the hunt graphic the entire season with Russ. Is that 7-10? Is that 8-9? Is that 9-8? I am hoping that we play some meaningful football games in the month of January, and meaningful in the sense of trying to punch our tickets to the playoffs, not culture wins that don't get us the first overall pick.
100%. I think that this is definitely a team that definitely has to be in the hunt graphic if Brian Dable and Joe Schoen are going to keep their jobs. And with the additions they made in free agency, Javon Holland, I really like Paulson Adebo. I really like that value signing for them. And then you have that great pass rush that they already have there in New York, and now you're bringing in Russell Wilson with a potential deep shot offense here with Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slay. There might be some home runs hit in the Big Apple this year with Russell Wilson at quarterback, and let's just hope that it results in some W's for Big Blue.
Let's hope. Eating W's, Jameis Winston style. What a QB room that will be.
By the way, need a buddy cop movie with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Ridiculous. Shout out to Jack for coming on the show. Jack, tell the kids and the girls out there where they can follow you. He does Steelers stuff, but he also crushes draft content here for us at Chat Sports.
Yeah, I'm one of our lead NFL draft analysts here, along with Tom Downey here at Chat Sports. We do
Tom Downey.
Tom Downey, yes, absolutely. But we are doing a bunch of good stuff on our NFL draft channel. You can give that a follow and a subscribe as well. We you can find me at Jack_Sperry for extensive scouting reports, in-depth prospect analysis. I just put out my first mock draft of the 2025 NFL draft season. So if you want to see who I have the Giants taking at number 3,
Was that pre or
check it out.
post Russ?
That is pre-Russ.
Would you have changed? I'm not saying who's the pick. Do you change your pick now?
I don't change my pick now.
Love that. Love that. If you guys want more videos like this where we're interacting with other Chat Sports hosts, hit that thumbs up icon. Marshall Green, Jack Sperry, we appreciate you. Can I get a big blue let's ride?
Big Blue, let's ride, baby.